Well, it's a red letter day for Henry Keogh and this program. For 13 years, we've been saying there was something horribly wrong with the trial that sealed his conviction of the murder of his fiancée, Anna Jane Chaney, in 1994. Well, today the full bench of the Supreme Court agreed. They've set aside the conviction and ordered a retrial, and while there was hope of a complete acquittal, this is still a major breakthrough. A short time ago, I spoke with program producer Graham Archer for his take on today's shock developments. Graham, thanks for joining us. What do you think of today's judgment?
Well, look, it has to be seen as a major breakthrough. This decision says that the conviction has been set aside and Henry Keogh has been sent back to trial. But what it means is he's no longer a guilty man. And, you know, from where he was, and remember 20 years in jail as a murderer, he no longer has that status. So while it's not perfect, because we were hoping for an acquittal, it is a major step forward.
It's a major breakthrough.
It is. And what it means is that he is still under suspicion and the status of the charges are still in place, but he's no longer a convicted murderer, which has got to be good.
Would this day have come if it hadn't have been for this program and your efforts? Modesty aside.
Possibly not, probably not. I think that we played an enormously important role in keeping the pressure on both the authorities and keeping it before the public, but also we assisted in putting a legal team together which was exceptional and has done an exceptional job.
And during that time, this program came under criticism.
Oh, a huge amount of criticism.
So what does that say to the judgment today?
Well, it says we were on the money because we always thought that there was something wrong with the process, that this trial that he'd been subjected to was based on faulty evidence, and effectively that's what the judges have said. I haven't read the judgment, so I don't know their specific reasons, but they've clearly said the trial that convicted him wasn't sufficiently credible for that conviction to stand. And, you know, I suppose 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, the idea of having the conviction set aside and going back to retrial, we would have been doing high fives. I think because of the evidence that came out from the Solicitor General's office and from the application for leave to appeal and the appeal, we were hoping for an acquittal because effectively, and I can't really speak too much about the evidence, although this has been before the court, the Crown's own pathologists have come to the view that they don't think a murder occurred, that this was an accidental death, and that's the only thing the evidence points to. So on that basis, sure, we were hoping for an acquittal. The question is, where does this leave Henry Keogh?
But this was never about the man himself. This was always about seeing justice done, correct? Absolutely. You've never met Keogh?
No, I've never communicated with him at all. And so it was always about the process. And clearly the process has been found wanting.
Will he apply for bail, in your opinion?
I believe he will on Monday. And I understand the DPP won't oppose that. So
home for Christmas.
Exactly. And gee, after 20 Christmases, that's got to be a good thing.
Legally, where does that leave him now?
That's the $64 question. And it's difficult to make any predictions about that. The DPP could say, right, we're going back to trial, we want a date, and go through with it. But given 20 years has passed, given a lot of Crown evidence has been discredited, I think they'll struggle. And so it'll be up to them to decide whether this case can be prosecuted. Now, that is a problem for Henry Keogh because it leaves him in limbo. I mean, what I would think is another possibility is that there could be a call to have a coronial inquest into the death, get to the bottom of the circumstances of Anna Jane Chaney's death, and then decide whether in fact charges ought to be laid or not.
Because this should never, ever, ever in this state happen again.
Absolutely never. No, this was a disgraceful set of circumstances, and regardless of what happens to Henry Keogh, there really ought to be, for the public confidence in the system, to be an inquiry into what's happened in this case, and it's affected other cases as well.
Big day. Graham Archer, thank you.
Thank you.